The bold and the beautiful spoilers for the week of August 4th to 8th state that Ridge Forrester will perform a dramatic Brooke Logan water rescue, while Sheila Sharp considers some investigative work. When Brooke decides she's had enough of Ridge's games, she'll fully commit to Nick Marone and the Italian trip he has planned. Nick has rushed repairs on the boat he wants to take Brooke out on, which will undoubtedly prove to be a mistake. Ridge will undoubtedly see an amazing boat failure that causes Brooke to fall into the water. Ridge will dive in for a dramatic rescue, reigniting the spark between them. Brooke should soften despite her prior outburst, and accept that her heart is once again drawn to Ridge. Similarly, Ridge will realize he can't keep pretending Brooke is his true love. Although Ridge cares about Taylor Hayes, she will never have the soulmate status that B&B portrays for Ridge and Brooke. In other words, destiny will strike again, and Taylor will face disaster. Taylor and Ridge's engagement will not last since Ridge is on the cusp of realizing that Brooke is his destiny. Nick will suffer a shattering blow as well, as he will not be able to start over with Brooke. Watching Brooke and Ridge reunite should break Nick's heart as he prepares to depart the B&B. Back in Los Angeles, Sheila might decide to take matters into her own hands. Will Sheila follow Lee Finnegan to find out what she is hiding about Luna Nozawa? Could the secret to Luna's survival be jeopardized? Sheila may play detective in the upcoming episodes, while John Finn Finnegan should continue to do so on a completely separate case. Now that Finn is gathering more information about Grace Buckingham's scheme, it's just a matter of time before he discovers she fooled Liam and Bill Spencer. Finally, Hope Logan appears to be at odds with Daphne Rose about her return to Los Angeles, and Carter Walton will undoubtedly find himself in the thick of the dispute. According to the bold and the beautiful spoilers, the week of August 4th to 8th will be full of twists and turns, so stay tuned for more shocking news and intense face-offs. The bold and the beautiful spoilers for the week of July 28th suggest that Ridge Forrester will experience a love revelation in Italy. With Eric Forrester as matchmaker, B&B watchers knew it was only a matter of time before Cupid's arrow struck Brooke Logan and Ridge. Brooke invited Nick Marone to be her +1 on her trip to Italy. She thought it was reasonable, given that Ridge is engaged to Taylor Hayes and lives with her. Ridge was thrown off guard when he learned Nick would be accompanying him on the vacation to Italy. He encourages Brooke to move on from him, although he does not approve of her connection with his half-brother, Nick. Eric, Ridge, Brooke, and Nick's trip to Italy during the week of July 28th will undoubtedly result in chaos and misery. Ridge will eventually determine that Brooke is the right woman for him, causing Nick and Taylor to be heartbroken. Brooke's water horror. Brooke and Ridge arrive in Capri on a yacht for Forrester Creations' fashion event, according to the promo. At the same time, Nick plans to rent a boat to outdo Ridge and propose to Brooke. Something goes wrong, and Brooke ends up tumbling into the sea. She's wearing a tight-fitting white gown, making it difficult for her to swim to the surface. Ridge jumps into action to save Brooke from drowning. Ridge realizes that Brooke is his destiny, and decides to terminate his engagement to Taylor. According to the bold and the beautiful spoilers, Nick is unlikely to leave peacefully. He is determined to marry Brooke, presumably for financial reasons, and may attempt to blackmail her. The B&B fans still don't sure what his intentions are with Brooke, as he keeps his cards close to his chest. Steffi's exit plan. Steffi Forrester intends to travel to Europe with her children to get away. Last week, she told Liam Spencer that she needed a reset following what had happened with Luna Nozawa recently. Liam advised her to care for her mental health. With Luna no longer alive, Steffi feels free to breathe without dread of her lurking in the shadows. The bold and the beautiful viewers are aware that Jacqueline MacIonswood is using She used her vacation to Europe as an excuse to take maternity leave. The actress is expected to give birth to her 5th child, a girl, soon. She'll return to the B&B in a few months. The sun beat down on the calm riverfront village, casting golden rays across the water's surface like scattered gems. The sound of cicadas filled the air, blending with the soothing rustle of the trees and the distant laughing of children playing. Everything felt quiet, calm, and ordinary. But beneath that placid exterior, something incredible was about to unfold. Something that would forever impact how people regarded Ridge, as well as highlight Sheila's quiet intelligence, who never gave up on a puzzle once she became interested in it. Ridge had never viewed himself as a hero. To others he was just the tall, quiet teen who spent his time running along the river paths with his dog rather than hanging out in town. He wasn't flamboyant and didn't say much, but those who knew him knew he possessed a strong sense of right and wrong, as well as a dogged fearlessness that didn't need to be announced. His days were filled with routine early morning jogs, long afternoons working on the farm with his grandfather, and evenings spent watching the sky change hues over the riverbed. He preferred it that way. Sheila, on the other hand, was everything Ridge was not: sharp-witted, always watchful and inquisitive. She enjoyed solving puzzles, discovering mysteries, and determining what was wrong before anybody else noticed. It wasn't uncommon to see her with a notepad in hand, pinning down odd observations or drawing timelines of local events that others would dismiss as coincidences. Sheila always believed in looking closer. She explained that the truth was generally hidden in plain sight. The incident occurred on an otherwise unremarkable Tuesday. Ridge was walking along the river path with his German shepherd, Max, when he heard distant splashing and a faint plea for aid. At first, he assumed it was a bird or a youngster playing, but Max tensed alongside him, ears pointed forward, and let out a loud bark. Ridge broke into a run. As he approached the bend in the river, his pulse pounded, not from exercise, but from the distinct sound of panic in the air. Somebody was in trouble. Through the trees, he noticed a small, upturned canoe stuck against a tangle of roots, partially submerged. A young child, no older than 9, was clinging hard to it, his arms quivering with the strain of holding on. His eyes widened with terror. Ridge did not hesitate. He dropped his phone and backpack on the ground and dove into the water, followed by Max with a splash. The water was stronger than it appeared, dragging on his legs as he struggled to reach the youngster. "It's okay," he said. "Hold on. I got you." The youngster did not respond because he was too fatigued. Ridge grasped the canoe with one hand while wrapping his arm around the youngster with the other. "You're gonna be fine," he said to himself rather than the child. He kicked against the stream with all of his strength, while Max swam circles around them for protection. They finally arrived at the beach after what seemed like an eternity. Ridge collapsed next to the boy, soaking and shivering but relieved. People started to gather. Someone called for an ambulance. The boy's mother, breathless and in tears, arrived moments later. Ridge scarcely remembered what he said to her or the EMTs who examined him. He simply nodded, wiped the water from his eyes, and attempted to shake the river from his bones. He did not want to be praised. He didn't need it. He'd just done what he hoped everyone else would do. But Sheila, who arrived shortly after with her ever-present notepad, noticed something that others had missed. Her eyes narrowed as she studied the situation, focusing on the upturned canoe, the river bend, and the tangled roots. Something did not add up. She crouched down at the edge of the lake, watching the current move. Later that evening, while Ridge sat quietly at home, attempting to avoid the attention his rescue was generating, Sheila was already halfway through a page of notes. The youngster, Liam, had gone missing earlier in the day. He'd informed his mother that he was going to the library. Witnesses said he was wandering through town alone around 2 p.m., carrying a backpack. But Sheila had already spoken with the librarian, who confirmed Liam had never arrived. So where has he gone? Sheila started planning out the timeline. If Liam left home at 2 p.m. and was discovered in the river just after 3:30 p.m., something happened at that time. She was confident he hadn't fallen into the river from the walk. That portion of the path had a guardrail and showed no signs of damage or disturbance. The canoe had no paddle. How had Liam gotten into it? She returned to the river the next morning to investigate the canoe that had been dragged ashore. It was ancient and dusty, with paint flaking in long pieces. It did not belong to anyone close. And then she spotted something else. Scratches along the side near the center. Long jagged marks appear as if something scraped against it, or someone had attempted to hold on, possibly even pushing it. A pattern began to emerge in her imagination. Sheila spoke with Liam's mother again, gently asking about any recent happenings. The wife, obviously shaken, stated that Liam had recently begun playing with a bunch of older boys. Not serious, just neighborhood youngsters. But Sheila had noticed those kids hanging out behind the hardware shop, hurling pebbles and challenging each other to do silly things. They weren't necessarily horrible kids. However, sometimes things went too far. She chatted with one of them, a child named Kevin, and carefully probed for the truth. He felt nervous and avoided her eyes. "We were just messing around," he finally revealed. Liam wanted to prove that he was not terrified. "So we challenged him to paddle the boat down the bend and back. But he didn't have a paddle," Sheila explained. "We didn't think he'd actually do it." Sheila pressed on. Kevin finally admitted, laughing, that they had pushed the canoe off the dock, expecting Liam to float briefly before being dragged back by the current. However, the current remained unchanged. They had underestimated his speed. They didn't tell anyone since they were terrified of getting into trouble. Sheila thanked Kevin and proceeded to the local police station. She did not want anyone to be punished harshly. She simply wanted the truth to be known. The rescue was only part of the story. The cause also important. Later that week, Ridge was summoned to a town hall meeting. He had not wanted to go, but his grandfather persuaded him. "People need to say thank you," he added simply. As Ridge stood awkwardly in front of a room full of neighbors, he felt every eye on him. The mayor spoke first, offering compliments. Ridge did not think about himself. He saw someone in need and acted. That is the definition of courage. Ridge shifted uneasily and said a modest thank you. But then Sheila rose up, holding her notepad under her arm. "What Ridge did was incredible," she explained. "But there's more to this story. Liam didn't simply fall into the river. He was under pressure, pushed in a dangerous way even though it began as a joke. Ridge saved a life. Perhaps we can also ensure that this does not happen again." The room became quiet. Sheila's words struck home. Not as an indictment, but as a reminder that our actions have repercussions. After the meeting, Ridge approached Sheila outside. "Thanks," he replied, unsure what to say next. She shrugged. "You've done the hard part. I simply followed the facts. I guess that makes you the other half of the rescue," he added, smiling faintly. They stood for a bit, listening to the river, which was calm and leisurely in the dusk light. Things gradually returned to normal in the weeks that followed, but not completely. Liam's story circulated around the school, not as gossip but as a warning. The children who dared him apologized and were required to volunteer at the river cleanup project, as part of a rehabilitation attempt. Ridge, who was still wary of the spotlight, discovered that people now welcomed him with respect rather than curiosity. Sheila continued her detective work, but now people paid more attention when she spoke. She and Ridge, unusual friends, found themselves talking more frequently while walking along the river, with Max trotting ahead. They didn't say much because there was no need to. Sometimes knowing that someone sees the world in the same way you do is enough. Ridge never considered himself a hero, but he came to see that heroism does not always roar. It sometimes swims through chilly water, grabs a drowning person's hand, and pulls them back to shore. It sometimes observes, listens, and refuses to look away when something appears to be wrong. And sometimes it appears to be two calm teens standing side by the river, having done something good, not for praise but because it was right. Please let me know if you want a version with paragraph breaks or formatted for printing or publishing.